Hello and welcome to Carrying On, a deep dive into my record collection here in Thailand. My name is Julian, and today I want to do a deep dive into one particular record, which I like to do. That is, I guess, the main part of my channel is talking about the records. So I want to go back to doing that today and have a chat in particular about this record by Horace Silver, released in 1975, called Silver and Brass. So there he is. Yeah, Horace Silver, one of the great jazz piano players and composers of his time. Actually, he was born in 1928, which I kind of forget how early he was born. So by 1968, he was 40. He was in middle age before the end of the 60s. So by the time the 1970s came around, and this record in 1975, yeah, he was like 47 years old, a bit younger than me, but he's still in your prime in a way. But yeah, he's middle aged in through the 70s, really. I think a bit of a challenging time for Horace Silver. He was one of the great fated Blue Note uh, um, uh, uh, musicians of his time through the late 50s and into the 60s, making classic records, which some of which I've got on CD here. But this was late 50s, blowing the blues away. A great record from 1959, of course. Yeah, just classic 1950s kind of bebop jazz. And then going into the 1960s, of course, his absolute, classic Song for My Father, his most famous composition, timeless song, great album, to be honest. There's some great songs on here. Lonely Woman is a lovely ballad. The Kicker, uh, uh, Calcutta Cutie. Yeah, there's some great songs on this album too. And the precursor to this album, to Silver and Brass, I think really is this one from the 70s, where, yeah, things have changed. In Pursuit of the 27th Man from 1972. Great album, great sounding record, very much a 70s record. For me, they sound totally different to his 50s and 60s Blue Note records. He's still on Blue Note, but there's a bit more, I guess there's a bit more of a CTI kind of vibe to this record, a little bit more smooth jazz. But Kathy is an absolute classic, as is Gregory's here. And yeah, I love playing this record. It's a great one. And this is really a precursor, 3 years before, but to what I think is one of his great records and really overlooked record. My favorite record of his from the 1970s. And yeah, I just personally like dig the vibe of this kind of 70s jazz, more than the 50s and 60s these days. So yeah, this might be my favorite Horace Silver record. Yeah, I'm not sure I've ever said that out loud before I started thinking about this video, but I think really listening to this again, yeah, it probably is my favorite Horace Silver record, not from his supposedly prime years of the late 50s and early 60s. I love this record though. I think, and buying it on vinyl, probably about 10 years ago now in Soho in London. I've always loved it. And it's always been one of my kind of go-to records when I want to test out my hi-fi. When I test out a change in my hi-fi. Maybe I bought some new equipment or I tweaked something. I come back to this record a lot because it sounds fantastic. It's brilliantly recorded. The musicianship is amazing, of course. You've got Horace Silver himself, of course, on the piano. But then you have the bass sounds amazing on this record. Ron Carter playing most of the record, although not, funnily enough, the first two songs on each side, Kissing Cousins and The Sophisticated Hippie, get Bob Cranshaw on the Fender bass, and he sounds great too. So you get some a bit of electric, kind of funky electric bass on this. So there's a funky element to this record, but it's still quite, hardcore, beautifully composed, original composition, jazz with a big band. Now, it's called Silver and Brass, and this was a first of a series of records where he uses this moniker Silver Un to go through some different kind of genres. So we got this is 1975. And then the next year he releases Silver and Wood, which is similar vibe to this, but less big band. There's less of the big woodwind section, which I kind of miss a bit. I think this record's better than that for sure. And then the year later, there's Silver and Voices, where he gets kind of choral voices playing along to his jazz. And yeah, that I get a bit weary of that after a while. Silver and percussion, yeah, they get some more kind of African and world music vibes in there. Not quite my thing in 1978. And he finishes with his last record for Blue Note. Blue Note was in 1980, Silver and Strings. Maybe that was the last straw for Blue Note, and that was it. That was the end of what was, I think, apparently the longest ever stay by an artist on Blue Note was by Horace Silver, all the way up through the 50s, 60s, 70s, up to 1980, when I think Blue Note changed ownership and they were no longer focusing on the jazz, particularly the older artists, and so he left. So an amazingly long association, a lot of amazing records, but this was the first, and I think that by far the best of that run of records. The others, yeah, they don't do that much for me. This is fantastic, and yeah, I just love the vibe of this particular record all the way through. It's great. So we have a look at the back cover here. And to be honest, I mean, I did some research for making this video, and there isn't much there online about this record. What I think is one of Horace Silver's greatest records. There's a few random reviews, but there's very little in-depth analysis and no that I can find on this record, which is amazing considering the quality of this record and the profile of the artist himself. It's amazing. I think it's a really underrated record. So yeah, as he wrote his own little notes here. He said it's an idea that he wanted to bring forth for quite some time. All the compositions and arrangements were written by him, by Horace Silver, but it took him some time before he could find someone that could orchestrate exactly the way he heard them in his head. And that guy was Wade Marcus. He says Wade Marcus is the man, and we work closely together to bring forth pure, unadulterated silver on an augmented level. And it's true, it lives up to the hype from Horace on this. Three songs each side, all given room to breathe, and all having this lush extra orchestration by a large woodwind band. But it's not overdone. It doesn't. Don't think that this is suddenly some kind of big band album. It's not. It's just really beautifully arranged on top of the playing by Horace Silver's band, which is him, Ron Carter, and Bob Cranshaw, as I said, on the bass, and then on drums as Bernard Purdie on the two tracks with the electric bass, and then Al Foster, Tom Harrell on trumpet, Bob Berg on tenor sax. That's his main band. But then he puts on top of it these arrangements by Wade Marcus, which elevate this record to, at times, I don't know, quite majestic levels of beauty and intricacy and melody. There's so much melody on here. This is not a difficult to listen to album. It's quite energetic at times and funky, but if you're in the mood, wow, this record can blow you away. Played loud. It sounds fantastic, and the bass, it really comes through on this record. There's no, this is Ron Carter is not lost in the mix in this record. He, at times on some of these songs, you really feel he's the leader. He's controlling this ship. Although of course it is Horace Silver. It's all his songs and his compositions. So but yeah, it starts off with Kissing Cousins. He calls it a musical tribute to undying friendship, and it's just a great, again, a kind of soul jazz, but with this fantastic, big band orchestration. Fantastic record. Barbara, yeah, really builds up as well, and this is, as he says, a musical tribute to his wife, and it's also, um, a fantastic tune with fantastic solos, great tenor sax and trumpet solos going through this record. Dameron's Dance, yeah, a musical tribute to the late great Tad Dameron is track three, and Tad Dameron was one of the great composers and arrangers of the 1950s and 60s. You know, he added quite a few songs to the canon himself, and was yeah, and he was a mentor for Horace Silver as well back in the 1940s. So obviously Horace Silver had a lot of respect for him, and he doesn't let him down on the tune named after him, Dameron's Dance. Fantastic tune, beautiful melody, fantastically played throughout. Brilliant bass by Ron Carter. I was just listening to this half an hour ago, and the bass, you can just follow that bass line. It's just absolute joy to listen to. And a lovely kind of coda at the end where a flute comes in and just complements the tune so fantastically. Side two starts with The Sophisticated Hippie, which is a tribute to Duke Ellington. And it's another absolute corker, a great tune, upbeat tune. And he does, again, it's a wonderful tribute to Duke Ellington to create such a great uh, opening tune to side two. This time with the electric bass as well. So it's got that little bit more funky drive on it there. But then the last two tunes, Adjustment and Mysticism. Adjustment, yeah, this is a really interesting tune, which he says his own little notes here. Horace Silver, a composition primarily written in the key of C major. So this is a little bit beyond my musical knowledge, which is continually adjusting until its final chord is struck, resolving it to the key of A major. Much like man's continual struggle to adjust from the physical or material plane to the mental and spiritual planes. So, yeah, this is a little hint here of the spiritualism of Horace Silver, which he got into in the late 60s and early 70s. He got married, and he kind of settled down and lived a quieter, more spiritual life. And you can see in some of it in his records this kind of maybe a kind of bit of an internal struggle, a look for peace and spiritualism in his music, and it's there in a way that it finally kind of resolves this kind of tension throughout this song. Adjustment it's called, and it finally resolves at the end with yeah. And then the final tune here, Mysticism, which maybe is the best tune on the whole record. 8 minutes. It's brilliant. And it's brilliant from the very first second, where again, this kind of big band arrangement comes in with the main theme melody, which comes back again later on the tune. There's some beautiful solos here. And yeah, it's called Mysticism, and he calls it a composition dedicated to the art of meditation or contemplation on the primary cause of all life. So again, a kind of spiritual record, but where he really, yeah, again, you know, where he delves into that spiritualism that he was that he was exploring at the time, but doing it through beautiful melody. There's no sacrifice of melody here, and invention, and the beauty of these musicians working together. Again, wonderful bass playing from Ron Carter, and it kind of the very last note is really Ron Carter's um, acoustic bass just fading away on the last beat, and it's fantastic. It's a great. You have to hear it really, but there's something unique about this record. The way he's got his own tight band playing, and then over the top these wonderful brass arrangements, which are never too much. They always complement the music really well. So I think it's really well done the way these arrangements are done, and they sound fantastic on vinyl. To be honest, they sounded pretty good today on Spotify through my little Bluetooth speaker as well, as I was sitting here and listening. Wow, it still sounds great on any system as long as you've got a decent little speaker. It's amazing how well they can do. But of course, playing it on vinyl on a decent hi-fi takes it up to another level, and it's because it's so well recorded. Yeah, it really does sound great on vinyl. So there we go, a little review of Horace Silver's Silver and Brass. Yeah, a little deep dive into a record, which I haven't done for a while, but I'll keep doing them because that's what I really enjoy. It's all about the music. So yeah, that's it from me today, Julian, here at Carrying On. How about you? What's your favorite Horace Silver record? Is it one of the classics from the late 50s and early 60s, Blue Note time? Or are you like me? Do you have a soft spot for the for his 70s stuff, particularly this album, Silver and Brass? Um, yeah, comment below. What's your opinion on Horace Silver? So, thanks for watching today, and I will see you again next time here on Carrying On. Until then, bye bye.